Hi, my name is Amy Burciaga, and I'm a student here at Bellevue University. Today, I would like to talk about the costs and effects regarding food insecurity throughout this current decade of the 20s. If you were able to bring food to your table these past couple of years, consider yourself very lucky. Food insecurity was an issue many Americans ran into and affected many homes throughout the United States. Unfortunately, food insecurity we know was caused by one major factor, which was the COVID pandemic. However, the COVID pandemic was actually the main reason for the supply chain to be affected. This caused for many issues in the import and transport, as well as the production and the delivery of many of the items that we needed. In an article, Security and the Global Supply Chain by Sarathy in 2006, we actually get to learn about some of the reasons and major causes that happened when it comes to food insecurity. When it comes to food insecurity, things like factory shutdowns, price spikes, the problem that we have when dealing with other manufacturers, all these things come in contact all together and they lead us to what we see as food insecurity. This is when we start to see our shelves in our stores running a little bit low, or we start to see many more items out of stock. Unfortunately, because of this, many Americans were forced to rely on their local government and local food banks just to try to make ends meet. Things like SNAP and local banks were the only reason why many were able to even survive. In San Antonio, this article does mention that the lines for the local food bank doubled from 60,000 to 120,000. And in Phoenix, it even tripled. We also get information about the program of SNAP, which in March alone, it had a spike of around 16% of applicants. So this leads us to the conclusion that food and supply chain, they come together hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. And unfortunately, this is a problem that goes back even 2 decades. While researching about food insecurity, I ran into articles dating back to the 80s. So this is nothing new. The article that I mentioned earlier is from 2006. Food insecurity is something that we are running into, and it seems like we don't have an action plan for it. In the research, Building Resilient Supply Chains by the Rashmatam School of International Studies in 2020, it talks a little bit about some tips that we can take in regards to supply chain and how to make it function better. When it comes to supply chain, we ask for firms to hopefully try to get in contact with more manufacturers or more sources. That way, they're not only tied to one source and later limited if that source is not able to fulfill those orders. Also, the dependency that we have when it comes to China importing many of our goods is also a big problem. So when it comes to that, we might not be able to do much. And it's very apparent that we're not able to do much because this problem has gone for so long. The only things that I could suggest that we may do, and it starts from our own home, would be things like growing our own food, supporting supply chain jobs, or things just like simply not panic buying. These things are a little bit of a grain of sand that will eventually help us bring food security, which is something that we lack. I truly hope that you don't take this lightly, as this is a problem for the future, and it seems like it's a problem that will never end. I appreciate your attention, and I thank you very much for listening to me today.